Welcome to Women in Leadership Talk, where you'll hear from successful women who are empowering other women with their stories of adversity, resiliency, and success. And here is your host, Vicki Bradley, founder and CEO of Women in Leadership Empowered.
Good day, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I have the honor and privilege of having Nannette de Gaspé Beaubien with me this morning. She is a seasoned marketing and finance executive with an emphasis on biotech and the beauty industries. She has spent her career in corporate banking, corporate finance, private equity in Toronto, Montreal, and in New York. In 2015, Nannette became executive chair of BioMode Concepts, a biotech company with both cosmetic and pharmaceutical applications. This is where she spearheaded the commercialization of their proprietary technologies, which we'll learn a little bit about later. In 2016, Nannette actually launched her own global luxury beauty brand, and that is Nannette de Gaspe, and is the company's brand founder and the CEO. And upon its launch in 2016 at Selfridges, Nannette quickly grew into a cult favorite with an exclusive distribution in top luxury retailers in the US, the UK, Europe, Canada, the Middle East, and in Asia. Having been dubbed the disruptor in the beauty industry by WWD and Vogue, the brand has also won numerous awards, including WWD Beauty Inc. Best Skincare Product for 2017, Cosmetic Design Beauty Industry Award for the Best Indie Beauty Brand, and Beauty Industry Woman of the Year in 2018. These awards go on, and you'll see that in her bio. And, you know, I'm just honored, Nannette, that you were able to join us today. And I'm so excited to, you know, really dig into some of the things that have made you successful. You've got, you know, such a broad set of skills and the roles that you have played. I'm sure it's not been easy, sometimes navigating those male-dominated industries. And so what would you say has contributed mainly to your success?
Well, you know, I think that in life we go through different stages, you know, and we're constantly learning. And I call it the good, the bad, and the ugly. And when I look back, even when I was a young banker, I was in corporate banking in Toronto at Bank of Montreal, and it was a very male-dominated place. And I would work so hard, and no one would acknowledge the work I would do. My senior executive would sit at the junior's desk next to mine to tell him about how the lending committee went on my file. He wouldn't sit at my desk. He'd sit there so I could hear it. And I remember as a young girl, and I had an MBA, but I guess I didn't have enough belief in myself, and I hadn't been out there long enough to start to see, I guess, the fruits of my labor or believe in my contributions. And I remember I would go in the bathroom and I'd want to cry, and I'd shake writing a 2-sentence memo. And I was an MBA in finance because everybody around me didn't, how do I say this? They drained my confidence, basically. They made me feel that I wasn't a contributor by talking to the person next to me, not acknowledging or respecting my contributions. And I mean, I go into that detail to say that in life, we have all these different stages that we go through that actually make us stronger and position us for our journey as it lays ahead. And at the time, we don't realize it. We feel insecure, we feel frustrated, we don't know how we're going to get out of the situation that we're into, not realizing that every experience we have sets us up to move forward, whether it's good, bad, or ugly.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So, you know, a lot of clients that I talk to, and just women in general that I talk to, have expressed similar to what you just said there about your voice not being heard. So how I know the experiences help, but was there a pivotal moment where you finally said, enough, I'm going to make sure my voice is heard? Because you've been super successful.
It's funny. I think of myself as a bit of a late bloomer, but probably a lot of women are in this situation like me. I was always someone that would go along with the flow and take it for the team, so to speak, and be a pleaser and an accommodator. And I think it was due to a lack of confidence, quite frankly, you know, so I just played along with everybody else. And even though I would, believe that we should take a certain direction, if others had a strong voice about a direction and it was different than mine, I would let it go and assume they knew more than I did. But through experience and time, as I got into my, mid to late 40s, I started to find my voice. And I think it was just an accumulation of many things that happened and made me realize that I wasn't completely happy or fulfilled. Playing along, living my life based on the environments that surrounded me, everybody else's belief systems and not my own. Because I think often, as I said, as women, we're pleasers, we're accommodators, we're taught to live within, certain value systems, etc. Our parents impose their belief systems on us, community around us, and we generally live that way without taking the chance or the risk to live the way we innately know that we should. So I guess it was an accumulation of things. And in my, mid to late 40s, I found my voice. And when I found my voice, I had a new liberation. It really made a change for me.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And you've done so many amazing things, so how do you keep that confidence charged up? Because I know you did a lot of work in Canada with Innovation Canada. You bought the pharmaceutical company, the biotech company, back in 2019. So that takes a lot of guts and a lot of courage to do that. So how do you keep recharging yourself?
Well, when it's like you get scared and then you just step forward. But even when I was asked to be on the board of the National Research Council of Canada, I was called by the deputy minister of the Ministry of Industry, I think. And he said that I was recommended. And in my mind, I was thinking, why me? It's brilliant scientists, et cetera, that sit on this board and contribute to this organization. And he explained to me that I had worked, they were looking for people that understood commercialization of innovation, because I had worked in venture capital and we had invested in companies and helped them get to market and commercialize them. So I still wasn't 100% convinced. And every time I would drive to Ottawa, I would have this little pit in my stomach that I was going in there and having to sit on this board. And was I a worthy contributor, and I'm not alone. Everybody feels this way, but a lot of people, put on a great facade. I think men put on a better facade than women, because women are more apt to communicate our concerns, about do we measure up, etc. So I would go into these board meetings and I'd sit and I'd listen, and then there would be, an opportunity for me to contribute, and I would contribute, and I'd see the reactions of people to my contributions, and started to recognize that, that I was valuable in this environment, because I came at things with a different perspective than the others. So I think it's about, even if you have insecurities and fear about going forward, you just have to step forward. If you're put on a certain path, or you've created a certain path, it's for a reason, and you just have to keep stepping forward. I look at the National Research Council experience, and I also look at Holt Renfrew experience, where I met you, Vicki, because I was doing the consulting work for the senior management of Holt Renfrew when you were the president of HR2. And I remember thinking at the time when they asked me to do that work, well, I'm not from the retail industry. Can I do a good job? Should I actually take this on? And I, at the time, it was, I was starting to feel more confident about my contributions outside of the space that I knew, because I had been in banking and corporate finance and then venture capital for many years. And it's what I knew, right? So I took on that job at Holtz, and I remember I would question things, but I would question things from a completely different perspective than someone would who had been in the industry all the time. And the president at the time, Mark Derbyshire, I remember him saying to me, Nanette, he said, you know, I really appreciate your input. You really have contributed a lot because you get our business, but you come at things with a completely different perspective than what we're used to. So I think in life, we should never be afraid, because from the time we're born, we're gathering experience and learning, etc. And we don't know everything in our minds. And if we let go of our fears and just express ourselves and express what we're thinking, I know for myself, often, as I said before, I would sit and think in a meeting, I think it should be this way, but I didn't have the confidence to say that it should be that way. And I think we all have to find the courage within ourselves to find our voice and express what we innately think and believe.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, wow, you just said so many important messages there. So, you know, what I heard is you took the risk. You had the courage. Even though you were afraid, you had the courage to speak up and share your point of view and not be so worried that, you know, if somebody had a different view or different lens on it, that was okay, because you brought a different perspective. And that actually is so powerful, because you get a more holistic approach to things when we can hear the different voices. And I remember when I met you at Holtz, I was like, oh my God, she's not only beautiful on the outside, but she's so smart. and seriously, and you're a beautiful person on the inside, and you give a lot of yourself. And I enjoyed so much our time together when we were at Holtz, because you did come at it from a different lens, but you came at it very heartfelt, like what was going to actually make a difference financially, but also to our customers, to our clientele, and how do we capture more of those customers and show them that, you know, we're all about helping them, you know, create the lifestyle that they were looking for. But what you said about, you know, that women, we tend to, you know, do we tick off this box and this box? And if we don't tick off all the boxes, we get nervous, where our male counterparts will just say, oh yeah, no problem. They have that confidence, whether they do or not, because a lot of them really don't have it, but they've been conditioned to just speak out and do it. Mm-hmm. So I love what you said there, Nanette, because the more that women can own that inner power, and even if it's small steps, step out and believe in yourself and take those risks, it's amazing what opens up to you. And, you know, you mentioned the path. You're on a path for a reason. If you tap into that, great things can happen.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
You know, and for me, the more I would use my voice and, you know, speak out, and the more positive reactions I would get, the more it became second nature for me to do it. I remember when I was at university, when I was doing my MBA, I could sit in a chair and put my hand up and contribute. If I had to stand up and do a presentation, when I knew the facts, I would freeze, I would look like an idiot, you know, I just didn't have the confidence. But it's amazing if we sort of take the risk, put ourselves out there, each time it becomes easier and easier. And also, even if something that we do, because we were certainly not perfect and we don't know everything, that's for sure. Even when we do something that is not correct, I mean, we need to find the ability, because I used to hit myself like over the head. I couldn't sleep at night. You know, I made that mistake, you know, being too accountable, but you just let go. You don't have to be that accountable. And everybody, it's better to try something and make a mistake at it than, or you know, than not try it at all. When I, you know, launched my brand, and the reason, I don't know if you want me to go into the...
Yes, I do. Actually, I was going to segue to that.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask you, like, tell us about your, you know, Nannette de Gaspe's brand, because you've got this incredible, luxurious, like I'm using some of the products myself, which I absolutely love, but what took you in that route? Because you come from corporate banking and corporate finance and private equity.
So we were presented with a biotech company that had created a revolutionary technology in the delivery of active ingredients, with both pharmaceutical and skincare applications. We could take active ingredients as far as the bloodstream for pharmaceutical use, or into the multiple layers of the epidermis for cosmetic use. And so someone presented me this company. They were looking for money, and I started to look at it. I looked at the clinical studies. I looked at the power of this technology. And at the time, I was at a place, interestingly enough, where I started to think about, you know, trying, what could I do for my skin to prolong a youthful skin, basically. So I went to see, because my friends were doing all these various things, lasers and different things. So I went to a doctor to get a consultation, and I said to him, you see age on the neck, on the lips, and around the eye area. What can I do to prevent that? You know, because I was coming at a point where I hadn't started yet to have, wrinkles and set in wrinkles anyway. And so he looked at me, and in a typical, because this, you know, people go in and women are looking for the fountain of youth. So he said, well, I suggest this one laser treatment. It was Fraxel, and you should do the whole thing, you know, once a year, but because you're so concerned about this area, I would do it 3 more times, that area during the year. And for your neck, he had something else. I can't remember the name of it. And he told me that I should do this. And then he gave me the estimate. I think it was $13,000 or $14,000.
Wow.
I'm like, oh my God. But, you know, and I found it daunting, the whole experience, because you don't really know what works, what doesn't. In terms of laser at the time, I really questioned what were the long-term effects of burning your skin and it healing. And, you know, because the concept behind laser is you disrupt, you burn your skin, it scabs and heals. So you disrupt it, contributing to cellular regeneration, basically, and collagen stimulation and everything. So anyway, I was quite intimidated by the whole experience. And so then it was at the same time that this biotech came up. And so I started to look at the results they were getting in an inintrusive, is that the word? Unintrusive way.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, wow, this is really amazing. If we can bring like revolutionary cosmetic solutions out that help people, you know, that are reparative and restorative and aren't intrusive, you know, and people can use on their terms, that would be amazing. And anyway, we invested in the company, and I started to try to commercialize the technology, to work with some of the major cosmetic companies. And it became very apparent that it would take time to get companies to adapt a new technology. So we had created lab samples, and I had the fortunate opportunity to present it to the head of buying and merchandise at Selfridges. And I you know, basically I said to him, I'm a business to business, but I can do a private label for you. And he looked at my little lab sample with my little mask, and I'll explain what the mask is in a minute. And he said, we don't do private label at Selfridges, but this is the bomb. This is the most amazing thing. You need to launch a brand. And at first I was very reluctant. And he said, look, if you launch a brand, we will support you at Selfridges. So I left there, and I called my husband, and I said, what better proof of concept to show all the major cosmetic companies that this is a powerful technology, and what better platform, Selfridges. So that was how the whole brand started. And just to tell you what the product was quickly. So basically, there's two technologies. One is called the biomimetic microvector technology. So this is a lipidic molecule that encapsulates the actives. It's a microparticle, and it will deliver the actives into the multiple layers of the epidermis. What it does is it mimics the biology of the skin, its components. So when it touches the skin recognizes it, and it synthesizes with it. And it's natural, by the way, also, which is important to understand.
Very important.
And what happens is it's all lipidic, fatty. It's a fatty molecule, so all fats. So as it touches the skin recognizes it and allows it to draw in. And as it goes down, it melts. And it deposits the active ingredients into, you know, the first few layers of the epidermis, creating a reservoir of actives under the skin. And then it feeds and nourishes the skin outward for 6 to 8 hours. And what's interesting about it is the first product that we brought out was this dry mask. So they dry print the formulations on textiles. So it looks like a fabric, but you hook it on over your ears, and with a light massage and the temperature and pH of your skin, it helps activate the delivery. And you wear it for 15 minutes. And because it's not wet, you could be doing a Zoom call. No, you could be
We'll have to try that.
whatever, washing your hair, doing drying your hair, doing emails, whatever. But what's interesting too is because it's waterless, it has a huge concentration of active ingredients. So when you look at regular skincare, a bottle of cream, and it could be a very luxurious, expensive cream, on average, skincare is 85 to 90% water and glycerin. There's only 5 to 7% active ingredients in cream in general, maybe.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, yes. And it's surprising, those wet masks are 1% active ingredients, maybe 2. The rest is all water and glycerin.
Wow.
So anyway, so this is the opposite. So the masks that I brought to the market were 87% active ingredients as opposed to 5 to 7. So, so the opposite of regular skincare. And because of the micro vector delivering deep into the epidermis, you're getting a huge concentration of actives going deep in with significant results. And that was very exciting. So when I decided to launch the brand, I'll never forget, I had lunch with a friend who, very successful businesswoman, chairman of a board of a company, sits on other very prestigious boards. And she said to me, "Don't do it." She said, "Do not, you're going to blow your brains out." And she said, "You have a good reputation in the business industry, and why would you do that?" She said, B to C always fail. And it was a fascinating, pivotal moment for me, because the old Nanette would have looked at her and thought, "Oh my God, she's right. And she knows better than me." And, I would have allowed all my fears to come in. I would have, started second guessing myself, be too attached to the outcome of success. And I looked at her and I said to her, "I don't care what people think of me." Yeah, she said, you're going to ruin your reputation, right? I said, "I don't care what people think of me." And I said, "And I'm not afraid, because," I said, "whatever happens along this path, it'll be from my personal learning and growth, and who knows what door will open." And I really meant it. It was the first time that I'd been working on letting go of my fears and not being attached to the outcome. And it was the first time in a major situation that I actually acted on it, And I found in doing that, because I took that approach, all doors started to open for me. And I wasn't fearful. I wasn't second guessing. I wasn't putting that energy out there that was sort of disruptive to what I wanted to achieve. And I just started going forward. I stood on the floor of Selfridges for 2 weeks selling those masks myself. It was quite something. I sold 10,000 pounds the first week and 8,000 the second week, which was crazy because they were expensive too. But they're fabulous. They work very well. And then from there, we went from there. I went to Colette in Paris as my next store a couple months later, and then Barney's in the US, Holt Renfrew, Bergdorf Goodman, Neiman Marcus, Net-a-Porter around the world. And we launched a full range of skincare, which is also natural, upwards of 95% natural. The creams have the same microvector technology as the masks. Our clinical results are amazing and people love it. And for me, it makes me really feel very good because I feel it's a bit of a ripple effect. When people are happy with their skin, happy the way they feel, and they look in the mirror and they look with it, they gain confidence, and then they go out in the world, and as they touch other people, they what's the word I'm looking for? They bring that confidence, and it is a ripple effect. You touch people in a positive way, they walk away in a positive way, and they interact with others in a positive way.
Well, and also what I heard you say there that I think is so, so wonderful, and for our listeners especially, that it's beauty from inside out, because it's that you overcoming the fear and trusting yourself enough to go for your dreams, but you're also having that impact outwardly, right? Where you feel good, which also boosts your confidence, because you know, people, I mean, the reality is people, they are attracted to people who have confidence and who have that positive outlook versus the negative. And I love what you're saying. So you're impacting both ways, inside and outside.
Exactly. And also, I think, you know, in terms of, you know, we look at the beauty industry today and skincare and the things that are now available. Like I look at my range, it's not a big range of products. You know, we have a cleanser, a polish exfoliator, we have a microneedling device, a tonic, the masks and the creams, basically. And, but when you use them effectively and daily, and whether it's my products or somebody else's, you can really take control of your skin. You know, and COVID taught us that, because a lot of people, you could no longer go to your esthetician or go get treatments. And I did a couple master classes online because I was asked to do it, going through the whole routine and doing the microneedling device and putting on the mask and the cream. And it's very easy. It doesn't take long to do it, all these things. But it was interesting because I even saw, you know, in myself doing it, I saw the difference, how my skin looked, at the plumpness, because I started to feel like old and run down during COVID. I guess initially it was just the psychology of things, a little beaten up, because we could speak to, you know, what happened in my business during COVID. And then when I started to do this self-care, and I'd look at my face afterwards, the next day, the day after, and I'd see like a more of a vital plumpness to it. It made me feel better about myself, you know?
Of course, yes. And so how would our listeners watch that? Like, is that on YouTube or?
Those were private sessions for groups, because, you know, there were various groups. Like this was part of a YPO group that I did it for. And then I did it for one other group that it was, you know, but if you ever want me to do one, we can do a masterclass. It's fun, actually.
I was going to say, I think we should do that, because that gives our audience, like, then they actually get to see it happen. And self-care is so important. And that's externally and internally all the time, you know, making sure we're fueling ourselves in a positive way.
I agree with you. And I think, interestingly enough, with all the things, the devastating things that have happened with COVID, and things are to come, it's going to be not that easy. It's going to be hard. We've taken on so much debt, our countries, etc., and we're all going to have to live through that. But there were good things too, because I think for a lot of us, it made us realize, despite the struggles that we were all going through, it put us in an environment where we weren't distracted in the same way, and it gave us time to, you know, think more about self-care. And as you said, not just the you know, the physical, or, you know, like creaming and you know, treatments, etc., but also what we put inside our bodies.
Yeah.
You know? And I know a lot of people also that started to exercise online and changed, you know, lost weight, or just changed even their whole outlook.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, I've spoken to a lot of my clients, a lot of the women that participate in our WIL Empowered Socials. There's a lot more emphasis on mindfulness and self-care and self-talk, you know, really fueling yourself. And you've mentioned that a few times, you know, like even when you were driving to Ottawa and you had that knot in the pit of your stomach, like talking to yourself, okay, I can do this, and, you know, I can contribute to this. And then you actually saw how people responded to that, which is awesome. And it can be scary and it can be hard for some people, but it's just taking those little steps, one step at a time, and fueling yourself with all the positive things.
Exactly.
So Nanette, what if you had the opportunity to coach yourself as a young woman starting out, what would you share with yourself?
So I believe that I'm just going to repeat, if you don't mind, some of the stuff that I said. I really believe the key thing is to trust our own intuition. Mm-hmm. And it's really important to listen to ourselves. I think we get very, there's so much noise in our lives and in our minds. Our minds, they tell us stories, and we listen to those stories and we feed on those stories. And I think if we have the time, and we should all find the time meditation or quiet time in which we could just breathe. And it's interesting what happens when I'm an advocate of it. I don't do it a lot, quite honestly. I'm not going to pretend I am a big meditation guru. I'm not. I wish I was. But when I do find that time, it's amazing. When I silence my mind, it's amazing how much clarity I get. And I get a lot of clarity. I start to see and understand things more clearly. And I think the most important thing to a young person is to find the time to do that, to silence your mind, find that clarity, and listen to your intuition, because you'll hear things that you really need to be able to go forward on the path that your path, basically. So that's very important. And the idea of having the courage to live on your terms, finding your voice at an early age, not be governed by everything that society and our parents impose upon us, and especially, some families, the ethnic families, right, are wonderful. But they say, they're like the old time mentality of we need to do this way, and you must behave this way, you must do this, and you go in the world with that in the back of your head, and it affects you and impacts you, and then you don't take the chances, you don't grab the opportunities that you would, because it doesn't fit in the check boxes or whatever. So I think it's very important that we find the courage to live on our terms and find our voices young. Younger than I did, and basically, again, what we talked about is not allowing your fears to hold you back, and not being attached to the outcome. Whatever happens, happens. And if you fail, I don't like to say failure, and I think most people say that today. They don't like to say failure, because it's not failure, it's learning. So if something doesn't work out, it's a learning experience that prepares us for the next, and we have to remember that. Not let it stifle us.
100%. And, one of the webinars that I do is on mindset. And so you just keyed in on several really important points, because as we are growing up, and whether it be school, our parents, society, whatever, we get very fixed on what we think is the way that things have to be done. Mm-hmm. But to move into that growth mindset, it's how do you have possibility? How do you, to your point, it's not failure, it's learning. One of the examples that I use is Thomas Edison, right? Like, it took him 10,000 tries to invent the light bulb, but he created 1,100 other patents along the way. And those things would have never happened had he been very, very fixed on, how to do something. So I think, your advice to your younger self is really important and critical, because it is taking some of those risks and believing in yourself, especially when you're passionate about something. Mm-hmm. And, when you do that, you can open up pathways that if you don't try, you're never going to know. Right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, this has been awesome. Is there any other pointers that you would like to share with our audience? I would like you to share your website if you could, because I know that our audience is sitting there going, I want to try this mask. and I know COVID, it made us change the way we do a lot of things in business. Even for myself, like, I do a lot on Zoom now instead of in person. And so to your point about the beauty regimens, like, you can go online and shop with you. You don't have to go to, one of the big luxury department stores, but they can get access to your line. Do you want to share the website?
Sure. My website is Nannette de Gaspe. So it's NANNETTEGASPE at NannetteDeGaspe.com. What am I talking about? An email address. NannetteDeGaspe.com is my website, and actually this week we're just launching, I'm excited about this, a hand cream with our microvector technology, because I had told my team for a little while that I really wanted to do a hand cream. I've always, because that's, again, the aging thing. That's the one thing we hadn't targeted. Well, we did have a hand mask, we do, and the results were really quite significant. So I said, I want to use that same formulation and be able to put it on in a cream form. because this is really bad with COVID, and everybody's hands are dry and chapped and everything. So anyway, so we're launching that this week with our microvector technology, and I'm really excited. I sent it to my sister-in-law, samples of it a few months back, because she has, very dried out and sores and red. I don't know if it's eczema, but it's bad. And she used it for a couple months, and then she sent me pictures, and I couldn't believe how healing it was for her. So I'm excited about that. And I don't know.
Well, I think that's wonderful. And so our audience can actually have a look, and, we'll wrap up here, but, and then we will take a little break and then come back for Q&A. So I want to thank you, from the time I met you, several years ago at Holtz, like I said this to you many times, you're not only beautiful on the outside, but you're this amazing, beautiful person on the inside. And I can see how much growth and work you've done with yourself to really, have that confidence, and sharing that is very vulnerable. And so I thank you for that, because you're somebody for people to follow and to really watch, because you're a mover and a shaker. You're making things happen, and, you're the disruptor in the beauty industry. And, you're an incredible person. And thank you so, so much for taking the time with us today and sharing your journey. Not only about your brand, but also about you as a person, and how you have persevered and to have the successes that you've had. So I can't thank you enough.
Well, thank you. Thank you for those kind words. I feel, I've read from them, but I really appreciate it. And from the time we met, I just thought you were very special, and I really enjoy, working with you. And as I sit here today, you've made this very easy for me to speak and to open up the way I have. So I thank you for that.
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks for sharing yourself. So Nanette, again, I'm honored and appreciate you doing this. And audience, we're going to take a little break, and then we will come back for Q&A. So just bear with us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for joining us for WIL Talk, sponsored by Women in Leadership Empowered. To learn more about our programs, please visit www.willempowered.com. We look forward to seeing you in our community.